what I'm going to talk about today is, okay, so here's an example, right? I've pulled up Google Patents, and then what I want you to go to is not just patents.google.com, but I want you to go to patents.google.com/advanced. Okay, so this is going to pull up what I'm showing you here on the left side, where you have kind of these fields that you can input different things into. Okay, so we're going to imagine, just for my example, that the problem I'm trying to solve is high blood pressure. Okay, and my idea is that maybe high blood pressure has something to do with the kidneys, and so I'm going to treat the high blood pressure by stimulating or maybe ablating nerves near the kidneys. Okay, so this has been tried before, but we're going to imagine that I don't know that. What I'm going to do is start by typing in my first keyword. Okay, so up here I've typed in kidney, and then when I hit enter, the top search box is going to automatically populate with my string here. Okay. The other thing I want to make sure you do is up here at the top where I've highlighted. Okay, you want to say group by none and then deduplicate by family. Okay, so this is going to make the end results kind of easier to kind of glance through, but then we'll talk later about some caveats to once you start grouping this way. Now I'm going to add another search term, right? So I've said, okay, I'm talking about stimulating the nerves near the kidneys. I'm going to add another term with sort of stimulation, but truncated. Okay, and you can imagine, right? These two boxes are basically treated as having and between them. So now I'm going to, on the left here, assuming you're focused on searching in the US, you can pick to only look at US patent or families that have US patent documents. Okay, and then the next step that I'm going to do, right, is to think, okay, I've kind of laid out, my main terms like kidney and stimulation. Now I want to make sure that I'm covering kind of all the alternative terminology, right, that I think someone else might have used to talk about this problem or this solution. And now what I want to show you is that once I do that, right, I'm looking at like over 100,000 results, right? So one of the really useful things about Google Patents is that you can do this kind of like iteration through various search strings. Okay, so I've seen that when I do all of this, I still have 100,000 results. So this is like not a reasonable number of results for you to review. Okay, so we need to think about like what else are we going to add to narrow this down. So you want to start thinking about like, what are the conditions you're trying to treat, right? Or what are the anatomical targets, right? What I did, I added hypertension, like you suggested. I also added blood pressure, right? We're thinking about blood pressure here. And then for targets, oh, maybe I don't have that yet. Okay, so, we're down to 100,000, right? Now I'm going to add targets, like nerve, for example, right? We talked about maybe we're ablating the nerves near the kidney. And so now I've got it down to like under 60,000 results, okay? Still, this is too many, right? So, you're seeing basically this is what I would be doing. You could continue doing this until you shrink that number to something more manageable, okay? But, right, we don't need to just do it in terms of adding more keywords. One of the things, right, that I mentioned at the beginning is that we can start limiting those words to particular parts of the patent document, right? That's another way to bring down the number that we see. So here, if I do that for, if I put all those keywords that we identified into the abstract only, right, then I'm seeing about 93 results. Okay, so what I've done here is written like AB before each term, and that will narrow it down. I will warn you that if you click over here on the right side, there'll be a little toggle switch that will make you think you're narrowing to the abstract, but you won't be unless it actually shows up in the box or up here with the AB. Okay, I recommend just typing it in. So, right, I think that 93 results is the sort of total number of documents. And then when you scroll through this list, Google will kind of deduplicate them down to 30. And I think that that's, you know, you may be wondering, like, what number am I trying to hit? And, you know, it all depends on how much time you want to put into it. But I think 30 is probably too low. Okay, so like 60,000 too high, 30 is too low, but it might be a really good place to start, right? Like these 30 may be some of the really closest art that's out there and a good place to start going through. You know, I might think, okay, like I can definitely go through 30. Maybe I should be going through more. If I want to broaden out a little bit, maybe I'll change it to looking for those terms in the abstract title and claims. Okay, so now I'm looking for them in more places and I'm back out to about 900 results. So I think this is right somewhere in that between 30 and 900 may be kind of the sweet spot that you're looking for. Okay. Now, it's not just about numbers, right? What you really want is to stop, and after you kind of have put together maybe your keywords, think about, like, if I step back, does this seem like a list of results that I want? Okay, so let me give you two suggested ways to think about that. One is, if I know that anything is out there, right? Say that I know that there's a particular patent, you know, that some competitor has or something like that. Say I know that there's an inventor who works in this space or a company, right? Are those showing up in my results, right? If they're not, then figure out why they're not and adjust your strategy, okay? The other one is, like, when I go through some of these results, like, do they seem like basically the type of thing I'm looking for, right? So sometimes you might realize that, you know, you're using a term that you think is very specific to your application, but as it turns out, right, it's used in some other context, and that's causing your search results to not really be on point. Okay, so, right, just a little search tip based on what we just talked about, right? So think about adding this title abstract claim limitation, and I've given you here the syntax for limiting it. You can also do, right, the wildcards here, although Google creates the plurals automatically. If you need sort of more information about the syntax that Google uses, you can go up here. There's a little question mark, and if you click on it, it'll pop out a little window that gives you kind of the specific language that you can use to do the search you want. You know, it doesn't all come down, right, to exactly how you place these terms, because ideally you're not doing only keyword searching. Okay, so the other thing that I would definitely recommend you do is assignee and inventor searching. Okay, so think about, right, who are the other people who operate in your space, right? And you can just specifically look at their things. So if you go to back to Google Patents, and you see there's this spot here where you can put in a particular company, right? So somebody, whoever owns the patent, is usually not going to be the inventors themselves, right? It'll be their employer. The patent will be assigned to them. And so you can put, right, if you're looking at renal denervation, you can put in Ardian and look at everything that they have. You could also, if you're not sure who works in your space, after you do some keyword searching, Google has a little box on the right that tells you kind of the top patent owners for the keyword search results. Okay, and so that can give you a sense of who is really operating in this space, and maybe you might want to look at everything that one of those companies has filed. On the other hand, right, you're not always going to be able to look at everything, right? Like if AbbVie is showing up in this list, right, you're not going to look at everything AbbVie has. You might need to do a combination, right, where you say, okay, I'm going to look at everything that AbbVie has that also has the keyword kidney, right, in the abstract or anywhere in the document or something, and kind of combine them in that way. Okay. Same thing for inventors. You can, if you know of somebody, you can search for them, or you can kind of look at this chart based on your keyword searching to see which inventors you might want to investigate further. So that's, I think, fairly straightforward. The opposite, very complicated and confusing way of doing searching, but can be very effective, is called classification searching. And this is also a really good complement to keyword searching, but I will warn you that I think it is very hard to do well. Basically, every single patent document is given one or more codes based on what it's about. And so if you can find the code that really specifically describes what you're looking for, then you can review the patents and applications within that classification code. And here I've given you an example. So you can go into the USPTO website and drill down and find very, very narrow codes, right? So here I found one that's the classification for surgical instruments, devices, or methods for transferring non-mechanical forms of energy to or from the kidney, okay? So we can find, if we can sort of find that code, then you may want to look at everything under that code, just like, you know, you may look at everything for a particular owner, or you might want to combine it again, right? Like, it just depends. Some classification codes, you know, will only have 50 documents in them, or it could be just a huge number that you can't review. If you're not sure where to start, you know, you go to this USPTO webpage and you're like, I don't even know how to, you know, narrow down to what I'm looking for. You can also use the keyword search results to help you there. So once you do your keyword searching, you can see kind of what codes are most common, and then use that as a starting point for going through the USPTO outline. Now, you know, the thing that this is really good for, the codes, is if you have some sort of, if your idea is something you think it's just very, very hard to describe in consistent keywords, okay? So say you have like some, like maybe orthopedic implant that has a very particular shape, but like you're not convinced that there's particular words that someone would always use to describe that shape, okay? So that might be something where a classification code could be particularly useful in a way that, you know, it might not in something that's more easily described. Those are the three things that I would sort of recommend you do first, or at least the keyword and the owner inventor searching, and then maybe classification if you think it's appropriate. Then once you've done that, there's kind of this complementary strategy, which is called forward backward searching. Okay, so this is not something you're going to start with. You want to do it after you've identified your list of references, after you've reviewed them, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then you're going to go basically look at other patents and applications that are related, okay, to the ones that you've identified as most important. So basically patents that have cited your patent and patents that have cited your others. And you can do this in Google by just clicking down at the bottom with here, like references cited and cited by, and that will just give you other ones. And you want to review those and basically not be finding anything new, okay? You want to see that you've basically, when you do that forward backward searching, the references you're finding are references that you have already seen, okay? And that suggests that the rest of your searching was good. Otherwise, you might want to kind of revise. And just remember, right, as you're doing this, that all of the search strategies have limitations.